morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. I got a text.
You're a popular guy.
It's the racing office. I think they're really.
I probably got
I don't
it
think
too
they're
then.
really texting to me, but I like to think that all texts are generated for me. She's Acacia Clement. I'm Andy Serling. Welcome back. You weren't here yesterday. Greg
we
and I.
didn't have a show yesterday. Yeah.
Greg and I held down the fort.
I know. I appreciate
prattles. It
that.
was
You
a
did a very
full-
nice job. I watched.
Really?
You know, some of the races.
I thought it was like a B to B minus somewhere in there. Anyway, it's
Was
nice
it
to be
you
back.
or Greg that was dragging down the team? But you know.
Oh, it was definitely me. Greg always holds up his end of the bargain. Anyway, we've got 9 to talk about. One person at that pick 6 yesterday. It was not super tough horses, but not that easy to put together. It just shows you how you get sort of a couple of sort of middle of the road type horses and how those things play out, especially with favorites winning early in the sequence. I could just go into my whole song and dance, the idiocy of tossing favorites out, thinking that's a smart way to play multi-race bets. It's not. Anyway, head over to Naira Bets, and yeah, you'll make more money using favorites defensively and pick 5s and pick 6s than you'll make saying it's stupid on Twitter. Match 200. Use the promo code Match 200. We'll match for $200 of your initial deposit. What else do we have? Track stats. We got track stats. We also have the contest tomorrow. You have until post time tomorrow. Sign up. I think you still have a little while to go over and check it out. NairaBets.com/contest. You got a little while to sign up for the $40 feeder today. But this is the contest tomorrow. Of course, everything must be played through Naira Bets. We're on from 12:30 to 2:30 today. This weekend seems like there are short shows.
Yes.
I won't be here after today, but looking at the schedule going forward, though, it doesn't feel like that's the case
I think
at
it's
all.
just this weekend is weird.
Yeah. What is going on this weekend?
I don't know.
Can't be a baseball thing.
Yeah, I don't know. But for some reason, we're done at 2:30. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you and Greg and I will be on the desk. Maggie will be in the paddock, actually. Race number 1. Not a whole lot going on in race number 1, and I think it's either the drop-down layoff Billie Jean. If you trust her, then she's going to probably win this race.
Well, trust is a strong word.
Well, I mean, she's a layover if she can run back to her good dirt race, her last race in the dirt. But I don't totally trust her. So at a super short price, I thought I'd go with the alternative, and that's Bewildered, who seems to be the clear-cut alternative in here. I don't see anybody else.
Nope, I could not agree more. I went with Millie Jean because in general it seems she has a bit more tactical speed, but Bewildered has the recency. I think it's these two, and I was not trying to beat them.
Timeform US has the 5 slightly faster than the 3. I find it sketchy, but at least the 5 should be close. And, the 5 ran a mile against Headline Hunters. I did not like her last race. The last race was not a particularly good race, but it was a race that collapsed, so maybe that helped a little bit. The last race, though, not a good one. Went 5-3. I don't know, Keisha. I mean, I've got Bella Q third, but I wouldn't bet on her. It doesn't feel like there's any confidence she's really a dirt horse.
No, that's the big question. What is she? And she's also dropping again. It is her first dirt meant race. It was an off-the-turf race last time out. But she just tends to come from very far off of it as well.
Just odd. Hey, Eddie, race 2. Did I send a video for my Ms. Big Bucks? Oh. Yeah, I meant to send that. Oh, well.
That's our girl.
It's my first official mistake of the day. As we go to race number 2, Ms. Big Bucks is probably the speed and probably the horse to beat. I just felt like she's such a last time was the time horse.
Yeah.
And I imagine she probably ends up the favorite. David's got her sort of narrow in there with 3 horses.
Well, I know both you and I really liked her last time, finally getting back onto the turf, and I'm still amazed that she went off at 6-1 because she's a horse that has that speed, and while she's run okay on the main track before, she's so much more of a turf horse, and she by far looked the most fit that she had last time out, and she's obviously got to come back now after going through her New York bred conditions and going to open company first level allowance field, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge as well, but I thought that she had the potential to control in here, and she's shown that even if she doesn't necessarily get the lead, that she can settle nicely if she's in that first flight.
Well, if she's not in front here, somebody's going too slowly up
Yeah.
front, probably.
I don't know
really
who
quite
would
get it.
outbreak her,
Well,
but yes.
I mean, I think that Leslie's humor could be right there with
Yes,
her if
she
she
should
wants
be
to be
forward.
somewhat aggressive. And I don't imagine that Flavian's not going to be aggressive. And I want to show this race a couple things. The rail was very good,
Yep.
and Leslie's Humor was wide the whole way. But I also think it's important to show Master of the Tunes because this is a rare time when the chart caller really kind of missed it. Now, to be fair, Leslie's Humor was wide, as you can see, and it's very obvious. See, she's the 9 horse in the yellow silks. Whereas the 3, Master of the Tunes, is down the inside. But Master of the Tunes is going to have real problems here. She's getting shuffled back even right in here at this point. She just sort of can't find position. She's not this slow. I'm not really sure why she has to be that far back. And she got a little bit shuffled. Now she's going to come through the inside. She's going to get in trouble like right in here even. She sort of can't like get through. He's waiting to get through. She's too far back. But more than this, she's going to get into severe trouble in the stretch. Keep your eye on her with that blue hat. Now, no question Leslie's Humor was wide and against the track, but Master of the Tunes starts to get some momentum. She's come a little bit off the rail. She's going to try to go in there. She gets completely stopped in there. And, you know, she had a legitimate trip in this race, and there's an argument she would have been second. But she might have been second with a perfect trip, and Leslie's Humor might have run a better race, except she's going to be a much bigger price than Leslie's Humor.
That's
so I put
fair.
her on top.
Here's the thing with Master of the Tunes. I feel like she's one of those horses that often shows you just enough to say, I want to come back and go with her the next time out. And she, I don't know, I kind of stepped away from her a little while ago. She's been at this level for a bit, sprinting both here at Aqueduct and up in Saratoga. She's often right there. Maybe I was too hard on her taking her out completely. I agree, I totally agree she had a trip last time out, and maybe she has had some excuses, but I feel like she's one of those horses that it feels like every other race, there's kind of a little bit of a story with her that encourages you just enough.
She's gotten a lot of trips. Some of it's because of her running style. I don't disagree with that. I don't think she ran particularly well two back. On the other hand, I don't think that the horse who ran third ran particularly well, and she came back and beat Marco T, who was beaten by Ms. Big Bucks. So she might be a little better than she looks. She's definitely a little dirtied up by those races. So I'm going to take her as the upsetter. I have no arguments against the 4 and 9. They're perfectly logical horses. Race number 3, Vetriano will be one of the biggest favorites on today's card. And I'm not against Vetriano. You've picked against him as well. We'll take a look at his win 2 back. The good Vetriano is going to be very hard to beat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was so dominant in those 2 victories in the maiden score and then in this allowance race here. He's not the easiest horse, so you can tell. I mean, he never switched leads. Manny Franco asked him several times to switch. He refused. You can see him kind of a little bit erratic in the stretch there. And then, obviously, he'd been quite fast against New York Bred Company, but going into a race like the Alan Jerkins and running against Domestic Product, Prince of Monaco, Bookham Dano, etc., was just weighing over his head. They took a shot. I don't blame them. I still want to see him kind of progress a bit. I think that he's obviously very talented, but I think that he's going to be a very short price in here, and there are a couple of others that I find very intriguing. I went to Agalos the Great, who, even though he is a big, tall horse, his sprint races, that's where he's been the most effective. And I think the gelding is going to be so key for him because sometimes he gets really revved up and expends a ton of energy prior to his races. And I just thought the cutback and the gelding was really interesting.
I like the cutback with him. I scratch into him for third. I don't think he's good enough to win this race. My problem is, and I bet him when he won 3 back, but wasn't he extremely lucky to beat Big Prankster? And it's not as though Big Prankster's run anything remarkable since then.
He was off of a layoff that day too.
But he got an absolutely perfect trip to get it done that day. We'll see. I thought the only horse that might be a little bit interesting in here, particularly with a scratch of Calico Candy, is what you're talking about. So we go back, and I know it was the slop at Finger Lakes, but it's not always that he hadn't run like respectable races behind the Wine Stewart and El Grande O in his prior race. I heard El Grande O is threatening to make a comeback soon, by the way. And I know it was a sloppy track where he got it done, but he ran a big figure. And you know, Wesley Ward, you never know. I found non-maidens off 250-day plus layoffs and dirt sprints. He's 4 for 15, 9 hitting the board. The ROI is not that good, but this horse won't be favored. And I don't know if he's good enough, but if you take this figure at face value and you give this horse a year to improve going forward, you've got a horse that might be capable of running a figure of 90 and gives him a chance to beat Vetriano. So I went to the one horse I thought was hoping with the routine improvement off the layoff could get it done. I'm sorry it's Caldo Candy scratched because he would have taken money, and I wasn't thrilled with him.
No, I thought that, yeah, he had a perfect trip to back. But as far as what you're talking about, the only time I've ever seen him is in the funny side. And he was off of a bit of a layoff that day. And he just really did not look fit. Like he's just a big, burly, heavy body type of horse. So that's why the layoff with him scared me a little bit. Obviously, there's a huge change that can take place from 2 to 3.
See what happens in race number 3. Race number 4 kicks off the pick 6. One person hitting it yesterday. There is no carryover, and there is absolutely no form in here. I see we have the same horse on top.
Not much to sink your teeth into. Yeah, Violet Smile has speed, blinkers on, drop in class after facing almost exclusively New Jersey breds recently, but just felt that she was a little bit of a new pace, and I would imagine Kendrick will be aggressive with her with those blinkers on.
I'm hoping he's aggressive. I thought the last time that she was in on the dirt 2 back, she got a completely unaggressive ride, which really just didn't work in her favor. I don't think she had a bad trip, but I think she's best when she can be forward like she was race 3 races back, which I thought was probably good enough to win. And the thing that I found about this race was proper grammar's obviously difficult to like, is a huge price. Permed doesn't seem to be able to run at all anymore. I know Wayne Potts' horse are running. But Accelerina was obviously dangerous, though she couldn't win at a short price at Finger Lakes last time. Freebird's not a dirt horse. You're Forever, she was second by default last time. I guess she's not impossible, but Find Your Joy, not impossible, but she's got the one race that gives her a chance in here, which might make her okay. And the Dashing Delia wasn't impossible in here as well on the outside.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I went instead as for my top 2 picks just with the drop-down runners, and like I said, it was really the speed angle with Violet Smile that pushed over for me.
See what happens in race number 4. Race number 5, I'm sorry to see all these scratches in here, but you know, you got to run at Keeneland because it's really pretty there, and they ran on top of our races yesterday too, which I really appreciated.
About Ice's Pie today. I had my angle ready.
Yeah, I don't know why all these horses come out in here. Anyway, there must be some killer in here we're not aware of. Maybe it's L&J, and we'll take a look at L&J. And this horse might be able to wire the field in here. I'm a little dubious that this horse's 92 buyer is a little bit high for her talents.
Yes, and I think on top of that, with her pedigree, she's the first foal out of Covfefe, who obviously was brilliant.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, so this is her first foal, and she's quite disappointing on the dirt. But she switched to the turf, and she's been 2 for 2. And yes, she has speed. She's very quick. The Brad Cox's horses have been certainly running throughout this meet so far, but I kind of wanted to see it again, especially as she steps into stakes company. Like I said, I originally had the 2 on top. I didn't want to scratch into L&J as far as the leader in here, so I kind of default into Time to Dazzle, who I was trying to go against. But I thought it was interesting reading quotes from Mark Cassidy about her, that he really thinks that a 1-turn race will suit her best.
Well, I think she'll be fine sprinting. I wanted to look at her last race. Now, obviously, Carriou is coming out of there, and it came out of this race, and I thought that she had legitimate trouble. She's the number 3 in this race, and she'll break from number 2 post. She doesn't really have a lot of speed, but she's going to get sort of shuffled out of the race
she gets
behind
a little
Carriou.
headstrong too,
But
like
she also,
a little rank. Yeah.
She's also going to get shuffled out behind Carriou when I don't really know why Jose Ortiz decided that the lead wasn't the place to be with her, and he just sort of let her drag out. Now, this was one of the most ridiculous races of all time, by the way, because the winner, and there she is getting shuffled back behind Carriou, because the winner of the race was a legitimate 20-to-1 shot that had no form whatsoever to really go on to make her competitive. She dropped from like 13-to-1 or 17-to-1, then 6-to-1 in the last flash, where there's enormous CAW play at Kentucky Downs, and sort of an improbable winner there among many. And the CAW was very smart there, which is odd. She's just like buried down on the inside. Well, it seems to me like Carriou's getting the better trip, and she's got to wait in here to get room. The race is already developing in front of her. It's hard to watch races there, but I thought she had a less than good trip in there. And, you know, maybe she is as good as that 91 buyer she got 2 back when she got loose in the lead. And I thought I'd take her on top here.
Yeah. I also thought that she never looked really comfortable throughout
No,
in
she's
that
not
race
in a good
either.
spot.
And some of those horses that you watch those races at Kentucky Downs, and with the undulation, they don't seem to travel forward. They're almost kind of going more up and down and just not being settled, not being comfortable. And that was kind of what I thought as well, on top of the shuffling back, like we said, then getting a little bit keen after that point. And like I said, just never really comfortable. So I certainly agree. I think that she's absolutely a horse that is worth another chance in here. To me, though, I think that, and we talked about this the other day, I think the most intriguing wild card of this race is Jody's Pride, who she was kind of being outworked and not looking so good by being outworked by a 2-year-old this summer. That 2-year-old Scottish Lassie just dominated, winning the Frisette.
Well, the other thing about Jody's Pride is that was supposed to be a turf
She's
horse.
bred for turf, yeah.
And she was entered on the turf and got rained off in both of her first 2 starts. And while it worked out well, this is her finishing second in last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Before, she came back. She looked okay winning the Busher. It wasn't that tough a field, but she got it done. TT got a little ambitious and went to the Ashland. On the other hand, you are talking about the horse who finished second, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. So I get it. Didn't want to stay here for the whatever. Gazelle, which she probably wouldn't want anyway. She's been away. But now she's going to the surface where her mom was 2 for 2. She's a half to a turf winner. Maybe this is just the right surface for her. I wonder if it's ultimately the right distance for her to come back, though.
Agreed.
And I thought this was a tough field.
I thought, she's going to want longer.
But I think she's dangerous in here. What about Agra? I mean, is Agra impossible?
No, she's certainly not. I mean, she's been good in her last couple. She was one that actually looked like she seemed like she was full of run at Kentucky Downs. And then she seemed like she lingered a little bit, but was game towards the wire, I thought, finishing in that race. She's been good recently as well. And see what she can do in this spot, cutting back.
She did have a nice win closing, and I know it was Kentucky Downs, but it's not like she ran that badly earlier in her 2-year-old year in turf sprints, and maybe that's what she wants to do. We'll take a quick break. Keisha and I'll be back with the late pick 4.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
We're back. Keisha and Andy, we're just looking up the Keeneland race where Carrie is entered. And I get that she's training there, but she'll be last in that field. I mean, if she runs her best race, she'll be finishing 5th in there. It's a crazy scratch. I get it. She is there. Maybe it's probably an owner's decision because it's not a logical decision. Race number 6, Willful Mama. We'll take a look at. I was looking at different races in here, and certainly Willful Mama and Sarah Snow can win. I've decided to go in a different direction. I didn't love either one of these races, though she ran fine in here.
That's fair. I thought Willful Mama, obviously on the bottom side, she's half to My Main Squeeze and Rotney. There's no turf pedigree. The War of Wills have, much like him, seemed to like either surface. I remember Richie Migliori in the paddock saying that she looked like a turf horse. I thought she ran fine.
Got a pretty good trip.
She got a very good trip in there, but showed that she could handle the turf and longer in spite of that pedigree on the bottom side, kind of the top side influence coming through. As far as Saratoga Snow, I picked her last time, and I decided to stick with her in here because I had really liked her getting to the turf and thought that she too got a good trip in there. And Grace and Grit, who beat her I know that she wasn't winning the Miss Grillo, but she was part of that group that was
It's hard to
pushed
know
out
what was going to
in-
happen in that race, but probably
the
something very different than did happen. Right.
Wildest Miss Grillo running ever. But she was up close there, and I think looked like she was in a good
Could have
position.
watched it with Chad Brown like I did. I got to tell you, I wouldn't say it was pretty, but he handled it better than I would have.
It was a bit rough. It was a bit rough.
Wow, was that
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
That
So
was
anyway, I
stunning.
think that she was beaten by an okay horse, and I like her sticking on the grass.
All right. I thought Grace Grit ran a lot better than she did that day.
Yeah, that's
I looked at National Archives race, and I may be wrong, but boy, did this look like a horse that just needed a race.
Yeah, she did.
And I know she took some money, but just watching that race, it just seemed like she just wasn't ready for her first start. And I'm going to guess that she's a better horse than that, and she's going to improve a lot in her second start.
Well, she was also facing the boys first time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't worry about that much. The race is the race she ran. I feel like she's just a horse that just watching it just struck me as one that will be better with a start under her belt.
Totally
And, you know, Heavenly Light, I know she was wildly overbet last time. But I will say one thing, she was never on the rail, and the rail was very much the place to be, and she didn't really get the right trip in that race. And I think she's better than that race, and they're going to forget about her today because how she ran, and maybe they're right, so I put her second. You have the other Clement runner in here, a Bernardini breaking from a far outside post.
The post is going to be tough, but she's out of Fresco, who she only won once, but her lone win was in a New York Stallion series, and Fresco is the full sister to Therapist, who's now a Grade 1 winner. I have not seen this filly.
From 5 furlongs to a mile and a half.
Right.
like
For
that.
most of his career, he was a 7 furlong turf
Most
horse.
of he couldn't get
But-
past 7 furlongs effectively.
Yeah, I have not seen this horse
Mysteries of
since
racing.
the yearling sale, but reportedly training well. And I've just always loved his pedigree, and I loved this horse as a yearling. So I was really excited to get a chance to see her run.
Vino Samara, for people that wonder why many of us were suspicious of Jason Service, who's now serving time for using illegal performance-enhancing drugs, for those of us that people that wonder why were so many of us suspicious of him, take a look at the dam of Vino Samara in this race, and you'll get a full realization of how horses seem to improve after he got his grubby little hands on them. I thought that was kind of interesting. We'll see what happens. All right,
Couldn't
race
agree
number
more.
7. Hey, I'm not going to miss an opportunity to go after a guy that stole money from everybody watching the show, everybody up here, and everybody involved in the game. Race number 7. We have the same horse on top. Why don't you talk about Cold as Hell?
Cold as hell. First off, the claim for Rick Detro was totally kind of put up against it last time. Outside post, stumbling at the start. Secret Rules kind of freaked that day. Came back with an 85 buyer speed figure again. I thought after that was kind of in a chasing position, but a horse that could potentially be controlling things, and I just think he's better than what we saw last time.
Yeah, I don't know that I think he can be controlling. I mean, there are faster horses like C's Get Degrees and Poppy's
Well, yeah,
Pride.
he'll be on the
But,
late season.
you know, he's a horse that stumbled really badly, and,
Yeah.
and it really seemed to, I mean, you would think it would affect him badly. He was basically on the lead as they were getting ready to turn for home, and as you said, that was one of the more ridiculous performances. He got a 97, he came back with an 84? Really? So he did not run the Breeders' Cup now off that race? They're
I
not
don't know.
bringing him to the Breeders' Cup? No, I thought he was very, very interesting. I also didn't like too many horses in here. We'll look at 2 back for Dangerous Ride and C's Get Degrees, where I think they both ran fine. A track you want to be forward, and to be fair, C's Get Degrees does get claimed by Wayne Potts, whose barn has been extremely hot here. I think that Dangerous Ride was against a big speed track last time out.
Agreed.
I'm getting the wrong horse, not Secret Rules. I'm thinking of the Flying P horse that ran the 500 buyer in Saratoga, won by 13 lengths.
Oh, I
Wrong
don't
horse.
know.
Yeah.
Secret Rules is with Michelle Tanner.
I think that she's been on fire. I think that Dangerous Ride just got the wrong trip on that
Agreed.
track last time, and that's why I have him second here. Backside Buzz, the new face. I don't trust this horse.
I
got a bad
know,
odor to
I
him.
know. And it was running, you know, it has that 81 buyer speed figure at Oakwan in April, and so
In the mud.
It claimed for 50. They tried him on the turf last time. Now drops in for 32. I get it, but thought that he had the look of a horse who could potentially hit the board in here. And it's the
I've
lone
got
Rob
him-
Atchis runner that stays.
I scratched him in the third too. I'm a little bit suspect of him, but I think it gets to the heart of who did you really want in this race. Race number 8. We come upon. We'll take a look at Pioneering Spirit winning Bernard Baruch. Why do you think he's going to wake up today? This is last year, closing day at Saratoga, 2023.
I know, it's been a while for him. But that being said, he's stretching back out in distance. And I get it. I mean, he's not the biggest horse, so I can certainly understand why Linda had cut him back in distance in here, trying to run in the Bernard Baruch again this year. Last time out in the allowance where he was not a factor behind Battle of Normandy, but stretching back out in distance. And he's a horse that I thought ran a lot in Saratoga this summer. He held his weight remarkably well, all things considered. But I got a little bit of a soft spot for this guy. He has some class, and I think regardless of how he looks or acts, he's shown that his longer distance races have been stronger.
Yeah, I wasn't as focused on distance as the fact that he's actually run fine in his races, and he's been compromised in them. We finally have 2 turf courses that are playing fairly, it looks like, which is a good thing and has not been the case for the first month of this meeting. And he was badly compromised by a turf course that was favoring inside runners but favoring forwardly placed horses when he was behind a dangerously slow pace last time out. His Baruch wasn't that bad. His Sword Dancer wasn't that bad. His race before against Major Dude, he didn't run that bad. He's just been in an impossible spot. You go through this field. Okay, I don't know how McCullough was 5-1 last time out, and I'll forever root for this horse because of who he's named for, but I got a perfect trip to win. We'll take a look at Really Good winning at this distance before they went 2 miles and a mile and a half. And the one thing I'll say is, he's been in ridiculous spots, but he was very lucky to win this race, Acacia.
I thought the same thing, and that's why I had him further down. I had him in 4th. I get it. Facing the Gray Wizard in his last couple of starts and going long, but I don't know. I thought he got the perfect setup to win here on the turf.
He was very, very lucky to win this race, no doubt. Kerouac looks to be in a tough spot. Daunt just doesn't win. He's got credentials, but he doesn't win.
That's why I put him second, because he often will hit the board.
It just doesn't seem like it's going to work out for him anymore, but he's not impossible.
No, I know.
Wonderful Justice feels like he'll be forward in here, but you want him, is he good enough to beat these in a mile and 3/16? I wonder if Mondego will ever really run. I've got him second. I'm not ready to completely divorce myself, but I got to tell you, he has been really disappointing this year.
His speed, I think, is a big weapon. And I think when they came back this year after gelding him, there were hopes that he was going to take a step forward, and it really hasn't, which is tough.
He ran fine in that really good race where he ran third. He just actually ran pretty well in there.
You know, he hasn't taken that big step
No.
forward, I will say.
I mean, he probably wasn't being reckoning force last time, but he just doesn't seem to have finish in him. And I had high hopes for him. Dyna Drive's a horse that has back form, but man, his recent form is bad.
Very disappointing.
And Raylu's riding.
Yeah.
Race number 9, where Street View came out. Linda had to have somebody scratch today. Horse to beat a stamp of approval. We'll take a look at finishing 3rd, and I think Sunday Tiff ran 4th in this race. Sunday Tiff had a good trip in here and just didn't really finish. I thought stamp of approval ran fine, and they're probably just being realistic, dropping her in for $75,000. Still, it's a little weird because, I don't know, they just sort of given up. She hasn't run in 4 months, and she missed all of Saratoga, and now she's in for a tag. She cost $250,000. Her first turf start was coming off a bit of a layoff, and she improved dramatically. I'm a little surprised she's not getting another chance in Maiden Special. I understand that it's not, it's a few dollars in the purses and stuff, but I wonder if somebody will claim her for $75,000. I don't know if she has any value as a broodmare.
Yeah, I don't know. That was in large part a reason why I thought that it'd be a good possibility to take a stab against her in here, because I thought that she ran pretty well, and like I said, it was off of a layoff. She's got another little bit of a layoff following that. She missed Saratoga, coming back here for 75. Could she win? Absolutely. I'm going to take another crack at Prom Date Bonnie, though, who
I don't think she's going to be 20-1.
I don't think she is either. She's dropping in class. The 5.5 furlong jump to the mile and an eighth was just a bit drastic. I also thought that she was one who definitely looked like more distance versus the sprint that she ran in at Fairgrounds first time out, but I thought that she just needed to tuck up a bit, and the drop in class.
She was also against the track,
She was,
being outside. That pace actually fell apart in the late stages, and she was chasing the pace. I think she's a horse that wants to be forward. I'm not going to be surprised if she's not right sort of off the heels maybe of the 3 in this race. And I do think there's a big story on her last time. She's been working well and such. I think you're supposed to at least throw her in somewhere in this race. I feel like she's going to run better. Now maybe she's a bit of a morning glory and she just isn't very good. But she does have viable excuses in her last race. I think if you're somebody who liked her last time at all, you're supposed to give her one more chance near a big price because, for instance, the second choice at 7-2 on the line is Positive Carry. Here's some stats for you. Linda Rice off the claim with turf routers over the last 5 years. This is a stat I think is hard to believe. 1 for 30.
Wow.
1 for 30. Here's one for you. Maidens on the turf going long off the claim from Chad Brown. 0 for 16 with 4 hitting the board.
Wow.
And it's interesting because his maiden special to maiden claimer drop-down numbers are not particularly strong. Yeah. And that number coincides with this one to say he's dropping them for a reason. And I think that is something to consider with Stamp Rule. I know it's 75,000, but a drop is a drop. And, you know, she ran well enough that I think that drop's a little concerning. The other problem is obviously she's got issues because she can't stay on the racetrack.
No, and she just always takes money without winning.
And he's got Dazzling Cruiser as the third choice. I'm not a big fan of this horse. I didn't think she ran terribly first time out. I guess she was in tough last time. Bill Mott's got slightly better numbers, but not great numbers. Here's one for you. Maiden special, maiden claimer, the turf at Naira going long. He's 1 for 15, 27-cent ROI. So it's satisfactual. You know, that race she ran last time, it's better than that 69 buyer suggests. You start going through the horses in that race, and that race looks like it could be 6 to 8 points low easily, which makes her a major contender in here at a square price. And keep in mind, that was her first start on the turf, you know, off a 5-month layoff. And so she's improved since early in her career. Well, that's never that surprising. And she was running on that DERF down at Gulfstream, which, you know, you never knock a horse for not handling.
Slowly, having trouble in some of those races too. Yeah.
I thought she was interesting for Shuri here, so I put her on top, what I thought would be a little bit of a pricier alternative. That's it for us. Yeah. Do you think, by the way, in this race, the claim from Chad Brown Turf Routes could go to 0 for 18 after this race, right?
That's right. There's also Pay the Bills.
Pay the Bills.
Yeah.
Pay the Bills wins. I'm going to have trouble paying my bills going forward. Head over to Naira Bets. Use the promo code MATCH200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. We also have track stats. Check them out at Naira Bets as well. You have until post time tomorrow to sign up to play the $300 buy-in contest here. Seat prizes, cash prizes, all playing through Naira Bets. Check out the information at nairabets.com/contest. Still a few minutes, I think, to sign up for today's $40 feed into that tournament as well. And we are on from 12:30 to 2:30 on FS2. 12:30 to 2:30 today. Thanks, Acacia.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris Griffin. Thank you in advance.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.